Hail and well met, film buffs and critical fumblers. I am here to answer a question some of you have already been asking yourselves. Can you play Dungeons & Dragons in Goncharov? You already know about the 1973 Martin Scorsese film. Of course, it's the greatest mafia movie ever made. But what I'm going to do here is ask the question, could the average dungeon master with the average player table effectively adapt the story and the setting of Goncharov into a D&D campaign or one-shot? Like I said, you've already seen the movie. I'm not going to talk about that. Let's get to the stats. I'm going to be grading Goncharov D&D game based off of 10 scores, each for 10 points. That's going to be concept, exploration, equipment, magic, backgrounds, lineages, classes, content, monsters, and flavor. So, any questions? You can't ask them. You're watching a video. Concept is going to be an 8. The story of Goncharov is incredible, but it's mostly in the details that the writer Matteo, of course Scorsese, and all of the wonderful actors are able to execute. Beyond that, we have what in other hands would have been a forgettable mob flick, I have to say. There's the opposing factions with more similarities than meaningful differences, the struggling family dynasties, the enemies turned lovers turned mutual murder victims, you know, that trope. And, of course, the femme fatale who gets away with everything because Katya is a queen and we must stand. While not the most original story pitch on paper, neither is any D&D campaign, so we're going to leave this with a respectable 8 out of 10. Exploration is a 7 out of 10. The streets and canals of Moscow may not be the ideal high fantasy fare, but our characters do have to navigate those streets, hide from their rival gangsters and the law, and of course, intimidate, persuade, and deceive their way through social combat. A few years ago, I actually copied the Act 2 car chase by replacing all of the cars with horse-drawn carriages and the milk truck with an armored woolly mammoth. And it was probably the highlight of that campaign, so remember that there's always something you can take away no matter the genre of the film or the book that you're adapting. Let's go to equipment, which may surprise you. It's going to be a 9. At first glance, you might note, of course, the lack of wands or crossbows in Goncharov, 1973, but when you look past that and truly analyze the scenes, I think you'll notice something more remarkable is happening. Andre knows how to use 50 feet of hemp rope and a grappling hook really well. Katya is able to signal her long-lost love in the cold Moscow night using a hooded lantern of all things, and I don't think any of your players could come up with Goncharov is able to do with that crowbar. For using oft-forgotten mundane equipment in a phenomenal way, tracing us back to the roots of D&D, Goncharov will get a 9. Let's talk about magic. So, yeah, there's not much way around this. There's not a lot of magic in Goncharov, and in fact, few of Scorsese's films have an example of a single druid or wizard in them. Yes, Mario's dance at the Siberian speakeasy does look like a bardic spell, and it certainly charmed Goncharov, so I'm not going to say there's no magic, but let's leave it at 2. Backgrounds. This will be a 9, and I was kind of considering here a much lower score because if everyone's a criminal, no one is special, but I wound up disagreeing with my initial belief here. There's a lot of nuance to be had in exactly how each character is a specific kind of criminal, and I think this will encourage your players to use their background for more than just a couple of skill proficiencies. It's a really good model that will elevate your game, so I'm giving this one a 9. Lineages. This is going to be a 3. Unfortunately, I have to say here what I've said on other Can You Plays. Mostly humans, mostly boring. The film, as you know, does have quite a bit to say about what makes us human, even as we stab each other's eyes out with ice picks. But unfortunately, I just can't see a way to utilize the many fantasy races offered to us in D&D 5th edition. I think you could make an exception for Harvey Keitel playing a one-eyed bugbear ranger, and of course Katya as a tiefling queen, but we already knew that. Classes. This is an 8. There are a lot of rogues in Goncharov, obviously, just like there's a lot of criminals, but Al Pacino shows us how a typically mild-mannered smuggler can become a barbarian when family is on the line. Goncharov is really adept with his hands and gets that cutting-edge wire-fu stunt scene, so he could be our monk. I could go on, but I think other Goncharov enjoyers watching know exactly who the fighter, the bard, the cleric, and the warlock would be. Content. This is going to be a 5. So I've seen Goncharov at least 11 times. I still, I'm sorry, turn away every time Goncharov finds what Andrei did to Vladimir's body. Not that Goncharov should get much sympathy as a character. There is, after all, the crowbar torture scene, which is made harder to watch in the second director's cut. I'm going to ask the edgelords not to attack me in the comments because, yes, I do understand that these are objectively beautiful pieces of artistic filmmaking, but that takes a skilled narrator to pull off, and I don't think that you or I can be quite the dungeon master that Martin Scorsese can be. Monsters. This is going to be a 6, so Valeri or Mario could easily be your next BBEG. The mobster mooks could easily be replaced with hobgoblins. That bit with the runaway circus bear, I think you could easily flesh that out into a full combat encounter. And of course, a skilled KGB agent might as well be a mind flayer. So why the lackluster score 6 here, right? Because you already know that the true monsters of Goncharov would be the members of our own party, the main characters. And they're not even fighting with each other. I'm not talking PvP here. They're fighting with their own inner spirits, their own hearts, their own desires. So this 6 is not really a shortcoming on behalf of the source material, Goncharov 1973. This is a shortcoming of 5E's rule set. Finally, we get to flavor. This is going to be a 12 out of 10. That's right. Goncharov doesn't have the best scenery, but it is described to us beautifully through our characters' eyes. It doesn't have the best stories to tell, maybe, but Mateo's dialogue is so unique, or if you believe De Niro's claim, they can serve as a perfect lesson in roleplay improvisation. I could make a 4-hour video just to justify this 12 out of 10 score here, but several serious YouTubers already made that video. I'll leave it to them, so I'll rest my case and move on to the final scores. When we tally everything up, Goncharov as a D&D game is going to get a 69 out of 100. Unfortunately, this falls short of the 70 that I typically look for a viable D&D game. Goncharov may be the greatest mafia movie ever made, but it might not be the best D&D one-shot ever made. That's all I'm saying. Still, if you saw this video and said, that's a great idea, I'm gonna go run Goncharov D&D, then do it. Don't let one nerd's numbers affect you. After all, when you're making up bullshit with friends or randos on the internet, there's no end to the fun you can have. Thank you for watching. Have a nat 20 day. Bye-bye.